have a lot of great friends. I don't think they'd be good business partners of mine. None of my 5 closest friends that I've had my entire life that I love, I take vacations with, I talk on the phone with every week. I mean, you couldn't be closer friends. None of them.
Welcome to a new season of Leadership Live podcast, where talented people become extraordinary leaders. I'm Daphne Horowitz, and I'm here to help you cut through the noise and talk about real leadership issues. Down to earth, solid, caring and confident leadership. No theory, no pie in the sky, no frills or fluff. Because this is what the world needs most right now. For you to lead with confidence, clarity and impact, so that you can build a business that builds people, grows profit, and makes a difference. Today, we're talking about hiring, firing, and partnering in building your business. Sean Castrina is a serial entrepreneur, having launched more than 20 companies over the last 20 years, each in a different industry. In this interview, we covered a lot of ground in terms of what makes things work, dealing with challenges, the things we have to learn, and the things that we can never get used to but still have to do. So what are his secrets to success? Well, there are many, and here are some of the great nuggets. First, remembering that everyone is a human being and you're never excused from treating people with respect. Speak to people kindly, even when you're giving them criticism or when you need to let them go. Take action fast and always be partnering. He also tells a great story about how he dealt with a competitor who opened a store across the road, copied his stuff, including his name, but managed to find a win-win solution for both. I love this gem from Sean. Employees make you money, partners make you rich. So treat your employees like they're your partners. So have a listen to this energizing, jam-packed interview with Sean Castrina. And as always, for great leadership resources and information about our events and programs, head on to my website at daphnaHorowitz.com and grab yourself a copy of my new book, Weekly Habits for Extraordinary Leaders, available on Amazon today. So welcome to Leadership Live, and today we have a wonderful guest with us. It's Sean Castrina. Sean Castrina is a serial entrepreneur. He has started more than 20 companies over the last 20 years, which I think is fascinating, with a mission of launching a new venture every single year, right, Sean?
That's awesome. The goal. That's the goal.
Also the author of 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success, and the greatest entrepreneur in the world, and the world's greatest business plan. Wow. Okay, 3 books. Amazing. And you're also the podcast host of the 10-Minute Entrepreneur. So I'm really excited to have you here today and to welcome you to Leadership Live podcast. And I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're about to have.
No, me as well.
Good. So Sean, as you know, I like to dive into a juicy story right at the beginning of the podcast. And you shared with me that one of your earlier businesses taught you a very important lesson in terms of how to fire people. And what intrigues me about this story is that you expressed, and I want you to tell us more about this, but you expressed that you thought that you had got to a certain level of leadership, of running a business, and that earned you the right to talk to anyone in any way that you want. And then you came up against this experience of having to fire someone and receiving some interesting feedback. So take us to that point in time and tell us your story.
Yeah. I think a lot of business owners, when they start their business, they get their business cards printed and it's their president, CEO, founder. You can do anything you want on it. Right. And with that, we tend to think it comes with some degree of authority. Reality is you have some degree of authority because you started the business, but a guy told me one time, everybody's still a human being.
Oh, so there's, I love that. So, I just want to pause there for a moment. Yeah. Everybody's a human being. And I love that so much because even from the point of view of wherever you are on that ladder, whether you're the CEO or the person working in the factory, you are a human being, and we cannot forget that.
Right. So that everybody is entitled to be spoken to respectfully with a level of dignity. And no matter what you've never reached a title bigger than that. You're never excused from treating people, with dignity and respect. And I'm pretty zingy in my communication styles, in that my staff will tell you, like, I think Sean cursed you out, but he never cursed. Like, he has an ability to do it in such a way that you just got cursed out.
Just give me an example. Tell me a story. Give me an example.
John, okay, perfect. John, I went by your job, and when I looked at your work, why were there all these seams wide open? Why was there all this? And, and he'll go, well, I was doing this. But John, when I walked through it with the customer, and, her and I we would love to love your work, but neither of us had the opinion that maybe the work was as good as it could be. Did you think it was really good? So, basically I'm telling him his work looks like SHIT. And I'll say that 3 times in. I give them 2 off ramps.
Okay.
To get the idea. They don't get it 2, and I go, John, your work looked like shit.
Okay.
Now, my goal is not to say that, but I give them 2 ways to kind of get them to that.
To try and come on board, and if they don't, then you will say.
And you got to hit them. Yeah, sometimes you got to speak the native language. My staff just said, Sean's pretty, he's a writer. He's witty, he's quick with words and things of that nature. But I was in one of my first companies, and I had partnered, which is very common in my business style, to partner with people that are industry leaders. I find something that would be profitable, an open market. I don't care where it is. Mm-hmm. So it's quite often that I have no experience in it. And then I'll start a business. I start a business from demand, not from what I want. So I started a home improvement company, and I, to this day, have a plastic toolbox and couldn't put together a birdhouse.
Well, I think you need not plastic tools to put together a birdhouse.
Yeah. So I partnered with someone, and he was older than I was and very experienced, from New York, had the, Italian, had the image you would think from the movies if you watch The Godfather and all that. And I was terminating somebody, firing somebody. And I probably did it in a ruder style than I should have. And this is a New Yorker.
Do you remember how you did it?
Not necessarily, but I did it in such a way that my partner, who, again, a big Italian New Yorker, says to me, hey, if this is how you're going to fire people, you need to let me know, because I got to dress for a fist fight every Friday. And his point to me was, we're going to have to figure this out. And then I watched him do it. He'd fire somebody and they would apologize to him because they were horrible. Kurt would put his arm around him and be like, John, we would love to have you here, but your work, you tend to come late. Don't you, do you come late? Yeah, I do, Kurt. And he would basically get the other person to admit all their wrongs. And he did it in such a soft, gentle way. Yet he was the big Italian New Yorker, smoking a cigarette all the time, but he had a great way of being people. Oh, he was incredible with people. Incredible. He'd walk them to their car and they would apologize to him for having to be fired. And yet when I did it, I was going to get into a fist fight.
I have to say that firing people is one of the challenges that I find leaders battle with the most, because it's going back to what you said about being a human being, and firing people is a difficult thing to do. No matter how strong you are, it's tough to know that you are impacting people in some way. And I work with many leaders, and they often say to me, they will never get used to that experience of having to let someone go.
Yeah, when you know that it has collateral damage. Somebody has to go home to their husband or their wife and let them know that their bills have been disrupted, their groceries have been. Yeah, it's anybody who revels in firing somebody needs counseling.
Yeah.
To me, listen, I do it fast, and I do it like a scout.
Right.
And you have to, right.
And you have to do it fast. You're absolutely right.
Right.
It's, when someone's not working out, you have to go to the next level.
They rarely get better. That's that's a free lesson. Typically, you hire someone, you have great, assuming you hired them and you gave them the right responsibilities, what they're going to do and what you expected of them. And then you did a 30 or 60 day review of how they are, and you gave them some tips. And then you're about 90 days in and nothing's gotten any better. They need to go. They don't get any better.
And I think that's a good point as well. It's about taking the steps to make sure that you've given them every chance to improve and show their best side and come on board. And if they don't, then you need to take that decision, which is a hard one, and let them go. And it's actually a little bit similar to what you were saying earlier about give them 2 opportunities to see where they've gone wrong, and then maybe just then lay it out and tell them as it is what's happening.
Yeah. And then again, I've had to let go of plenty of people. You never look forward to it, but every time I've done it, I do know, in the last 15 years, it was always the right decision. Like I've never looked back on somebody I let go of and was like, wow, I wish I would have kept them.
I shouldn't have.
No, typically I should have gotten rid of them earlier.
and I can vouch for that as well, because I see that coming up a lot as well with the leaders that I work with. So what is your advice in terms of letting people go to do it well? You learned, you got that feedback. Yeah. What is your advice on that?
This is now I know how to hire. I know how to fire people because I know how to hire people. Okay. You can't fire people until you learn how to hire. Number one, when you hire someone, did you hire someone based on their resume or their application, their interview process that could actually do the job you're asking them to do? And have you defined the job? Do they know what they're getting into? Have you shared with them what your expectations are? Have you looked at their background and said, John, I have high expectations for you. Mary, just so you know, this is what I'm expecting of you. So I would tell you now, don't take this job because I'm going to hold you accountable to what I'm talking about. See, if you're very strong on the front end, well, then you've kind of set the bar. So then, when you meet with them, let's say 30 days later, and you're like, hey, listen, I just want to kind of review this. This is what I've asked you to do. This is where you're kind of falling short. I need to know, are you in over your head? Yeah. Is there anything I can do to help you? Or are we going to have the same problem? What do I need to do? Because right now this isn't working. So you need to tell me what I need to do to help you. Because right now this isn't going to work. And there's a part of me that's wondering if we need to cut our losses now, but if you can share with me maybe better how I can help you, maybe we can.
So that's in the leader, that's in the hiring process. I love what you're saying. You can't fire someone until you know how to hire them, and aligning expectations and making sure all of those are clear. Yeah. And then you've come to a point where you realize you need to let someone go. What is your
you give them a warning? I mean, I'm saying like 30 days in, you got to kind of give them, hey, this is not working out. You got another 30 days, so you try to do that. There are times when exactly. But now you got to let them go. You let go of people. This is very simple. I let go of people when it's clear to me they cannot do the job at the level I am paying them for, where I need them to do it at. Mm-hmm. It can be both of those. Sometimes I give them a defined responsibility. They're just not getting it done. Then I look at what I'm paying them for what I could be getting at that level. So they're doing the job, but I know, hey, wait, I could probably get that job for $15,000 less a year at the level you're doing it. In other words, they're getting it just enough, but they're not at that. They're in, it's the C plus. Mm-hmm. Maybe not enough for me to fire them per se, where I have, absolute reason to fire them, but I don't see them growing in that position. I never see them expanding their responsibility. I see their capacity is very limited. There's times when you see that, when you see that when I'm not getting the best return on my dollar or you can't do the job, or you just don't play well with others. There's a third thing, and you just can't work within the unit sometimes. We gotta, it's time.
Yeah. You're making me think of I'll just share quickly a story where I was going to hire someone and I was interviewing, and this one particular candidate just wasn't going to work out. I could see it wasn't a cultural fit, and it wasn't going to work. And I actually gave her that feedback. I said, look, I don't think it's going to work. And I said to her, I think you're more suited for this kind of a job. Would you like some feedback in terms of what I'm seeing that might help you in terms of your job search? And she said to me, yes, I would love some feedback. And I gave her the feedback, and she was like, okay, basically like ran from the room. She couldn't actually hear it. And I think that also sometimes happens, whether you're hiring or firing. Sometimes people find it tough to hear. But I think you're absolutely right. Do everything you need to do to make sure that you've gone through the steps of hiring well, aligning expectations, giving the opportunity for development. And then when you need to cut it, you need to cut it.
Because I want people to know from the get-go, I'm not easy to work for in that I'm not the person that's going to hire you and you can go hide from me.
Right.
I'm going to know whether you can do your job, and I'm going to hold you to measurables. So I tell them early on, don't take this job. In other words, if you're not the person I'm telling them, listen, I always tell you, if you want to hire Santa Claus, I want a heavy set guy with a real beard, right? Who likes hanging out with reindeers and loves Christmas. Tell them what you want.
100%.
Don't try to turn them into what you want. Let them, they need to be what you want.
They need to decide. Okay, so I want to ask you, because you have this amazing experience of starting so many companies. So I know that you do have a topic that you like to speak about, which is the one secret that changes every startup. So tell us, what is that one secret? I'd love to hear about it.
My one secret is partnering. I think if you go back and look at, and I said this to you a little bit in it, I mean, we say Elon Musk is, the great entrepreneur. Well, his Tesla, he actually was on late in Tesla. He wasn't even the founding partners. He was partners in PayPal. Bill Gates, pretty famous, partnered. Steve Jobs, pretty famous, partnered. I mean, you can go Oprah Winfrey, partnered with, Gayle King, and you can go all the way down the line. I mean, some of our most well-known people and or companies were partnerships. I think it's the 1 + 1 equals, the formula I use is what I call 1 + 1 = done. Me plus what one massive weakness do I have? Typically it's industry experience, because I start businesses where I see a profit. And so it's roulette. I don't know if it's going to come up red or black. So I don't know if I'm going to know that business. So in my case, I want someone who understands the industry top to bottom and has an interest in running the day-to-day minutia. They're more manager oriented. That they're like, they like somebody to get it off the ground.
You're saying something interesting here in that you're saying, I'm reading into, you didn't actually say that, but I'm understanding that with all the businesses that you've started up, the partnering was with a person that was relevant to that industry. So you didn't have the same partner throughout all
different. They're all different. And I have tons of them.
Because sometimes co-founders start because they are childhood friends, or they met up at college and they just want to build something together. And in fact, I'm coaching a company right now too, actually, where the founders are all friends from university days, and they've come together because they wanted to build a business.
And you can, and I always say that's the one, my son did the same thing. You can do that. I always say like sub 30, in that maybe you're not at that point, you don't have a lot of obligations. You could afford to fail, and you want to do something fun, and you guys are brilliant. The group of you, you can, like John, I know you could do that. Mary, you'd be great at that. And you're in that young enough stage where you can all kind of work into your area of zoning. You can kind of, you can grow into it a little bit. It's harder to do that, I think, when you're maybe, let's say 40, where you might be set in your ways. So I think younger, you're typically inclined to do, example, I don't think in your 40s, your neighbor goes to the neighbor at the bottom of the street and goes, hey, Mary, let's go start a business. we're like, but two college roommates will do it in a second.
Exactly. It's true. Yeah. So that's interesting, because for me, it makes me reflect about, there's a relationship thing there. So we say, like, being partners in business is like a marriage, right? Yeah. You've got to know the person you're partnering with. So that I get the college roommate experience. Yeah. On the other hand, there's the expertise, exactly what you're saying.
I want a prearranged marriage with a prenup.
Yeah, exactly. But also partner with someone who fills in your gap. So where you are not strong at, you want your partner to be strong at. So maybe it's a bit of both.
I think you got to be careful, because my somebody close to me, let me just say that, is in a partnership where they partnered with a friend, but now they're a year into it and they realize their friend doesn't bring any unique skill to this equation.
Yeah.
And then now you're stuck. I always say, keep friends, go make money, take them to dinner. I have a lot of great friends. I don't think they'd be good business partners of mine. Yeah. None of my friends, none of my 5 closest friends that I've had my entire life that I love, I take vacations with, I talk on the phone with every week. I mean, you couldn't be closer friends. None of them.
Have you ever partnered in business with?
No, I've never partnered with, because I keep friendships.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Because
that's fascinating.
Because this is the rule. The 1 + 1 = done. Me plus a friend doesn't get a business done. Me plus somebody who knows the industry is going to work their fanny off to own this company. That's the one that's going to help me start the business. A friend, I got a friend. We were friends before we started. All I'm gaining is a friend. I already had the friend. 1 plus a friend doesn't equal done. It doesn't.
Unless you have that beautiful combination of a friendship and complementary skills.
And what normally happens, though, very often in college, they're in an ecosystem of brilliance. You know, they're the sharp, you know what I mean? They're the ones that are coming up with the ideas. And, you know, these are very bright people that could each pick a lane. They're just deciding which one. And one goes, I'll oversee the programming. I'll take over marketing. You know, this is what I always say. When you're smart, you can do a lot of things. You have that giftedness. Like Nike, Phil Knight hired like nothing but attorneys early on. Attorneys was his sweet spot of they ran the marketing, everything. He liked lawyer, you know, he liked that high level intelligence. That was the number one fit. When you have smart people, they can fill a lot of different roles. Give me 3 smart people in a room with some energy and I'll start a company with any day, all day. But in view of not having that ecosystem as an adult, again, you got people at the Stanford Business School and Harvard. I mean, I'd like to think you could throw 2 Harvard guys together, 2 gals together and mix and match, and you probably could come up with a business.
Yeah. So actually, so you're saying once we've passed that college, what do you call it? Almost like
the bromance. Let's just say, you know, you have a bromance or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But you each got to do a job.
How do you find a good partner? Then it's almost like a hiring process. You are saying
it is exactly.
I need a partner.
It's exactly the same way you do the hiring process. So,
and has personality and relationship got anything to do with it or not at all?
I mean, you don't hire somebody who drives you crazy.
Okay.
You know, I mean, some people just rub you the wrong way. We all have personality fits and that don't. But as a general rule, the way I have always partners, I'm always on a search for talent in general. I mean, my number one thing that I do is try to find talent. I'm always on a talent search. I'm always networking and asking and when I meet people, like I met somebody 2 years ago who did an estimate at my house that I put in my phone as potential partner for an area because great personality, good go-getter, you know, communicated really well. So I'm always on a talent search for that. When I'm running a job interview, when I do a job interview, I've partnered with people that I've interviewed just because I'm interviewing them and I'm like, wait, they don't even realize how good they are. My partner right now makes $250,000 working for me. I interviewed him 3.5 years ago. He wanted to make $850 a week. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And I brought him to my house so that he could see how I lived. And I wanted to give him the awe effect. And I was like, Tony, I'm happy to pay you $850 a week. Nothing would make me happier than pay you $850 a week, but you're worth way more than that. I go, let me give you the vision of kind of what I think we could do. And I pulled him out of the employee thing and said, let's build this. Like, I see you understanding this. And I gave him 2 parts of a company that he's blown up incredible. And he gets a profit, he gets a margin on him. And now he makes $250,000. So it was now employees make you money. Partners make you rich.
And I love what you're saying about finding that talent. So actually, in a way, you're not just a partner, you're a mentor and a developer, because if you're finding talent and finding the opportunity to actually grow someone from an employee mindset to a partner mindset and business owner mindset.
And you have to work on that.
Huge contribution.
Yeah, you got to give them the, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. You have to tell them, and I share with them, like I talk as if it's already done. Like if I walk in my office and let's say we were going to build an addition, I will talk as if it's been built. Like I can't wait till when we have that out there, the conference table is going to sit there and I want to put a fireplace right there. It might be 2 years in advance. That's how I talk. I always talk as if it's going to be achieved, if it will succeed. And if it doesn't work out, okay, we'll adjust. But that's a mindset. I have a mindset that we're going to get this to the goal line. Example really quickly. I remember I bringing in a partner and we had somebody we were getting into, they were using our name and likeness really close to us. It was really borderline. Their phone number was really close to ours. It was just really getting sketchy. And I told my partner, I said, well, I got to end this. I got to go bring in some attorneys. He's like, oh, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. And I said, John, my friend, we were new in this partnership. Trust me when I tell you, I will take care of this. 6 months later, they had changed their name. I took John to the lunch meeting with that other business owner to negotiate the deal right in front of him. Because I called the guy up. I remember, I had my lawyer getting ready to do D-Day on Monday. and it was on a Thursday. And I called the owner of this business. I knew who he was. And I just said, hey, you can hang up on me, but my advice, I'm giving you good advice, is why don't you go to lunch with me tomorrow? And I'll bring a third party, a witness to what we're going to talk about, because I'm going to give you an out. Because if you don't take the out, you're going to have a very expensive year. And you have nothing to lose by going to lunch with me. And he knew I was a decent guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's been around me enough to know that. So he went to lunch with me. I took a menu over and a Sharpie marker, and I made him an offer. Fair, change his name. I was going to pay for him to put new signage out. I was going to give him money for a marketing campaign. Like, I was like, I don't care that you're my competitor, but you're infringing on some things that, that are not going to happen. The moral to the story is we did the deal in 20 minutes. Wow. Done, signature out, saved me a bunch of legal fees, brought the menu to my attorney, drafted it, all worked out. John went with me to that lunch. That was mentoring him. John was like, now he saw me at my A game.
What do you think was it that did the turnaround or convince the other person to actually take the deal?
One is that because he knew that to fight me was going to be very expensive.
Okay.
Never make a bluff. The biggest thing in negotiating is don't make a bluff you can't follow through with.
I think there was more to it, though. I think there was something about the relationship or the decency of it or something. There's something there that's more than just a financial.
Okay, I think he knew that a couple things. He knew that I was going to do everything I was saying I was going to do. I've said it's the Warren Buffett, The Speed of Trust book by Stephen Covey. In other words, I wasn't making any blind promise. He knew everything that I was writing that I was going to do on that menu. He knew that I would do. Number two is I was not trying to prevent him from being in business. I wasn't. I was thinking
you weren't trying to push him out. You weren't. You were trying to actually bring him in a way that was fair and decent for both of you. And actually, you were offering him help to do that. So
right. I was thinking. I even came to the meeting. This is funny. I actually came to the meeting and I had gone on GoDaddy the day before and I picked 10 sites that he could get the domain for that were similar to what he was using, but not violating. And so I came to him and I said, listen, here, marketing is kind of my thing. These are 10 names. They all work for you. So yeah, you got to think win-win. Yeah. Because if you go to a negotiation, the guy can't stand you, you've just made a greater enemy.
And you could have gone in full on fight, cease and desist, the whole thing. And you actually chose to do it differently. And I think there's power in that. So I love that story. That's really awesome. Thank you. So just a few quick fire questions before we close. So I'm all about leadership and leadership habits. So I'd love to know, what is your one best and one worst leadership habit, would you say?
My worst is I tend to not listen as well as I can, and I cut people off. Okay. Trying to get much better at that as I get older. If I could
You're not alone, Sean. You're not alone.
20. If I could go back to myself at 20 and teach myself one thing, it would be shut up and listen.
Oh my gosh. I think that's a key leadership skill.
Be an aggressive listener.
Yeah.
It's not talking that gets the deal done. It's listening.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. So you're saying that's your worst?
Yeah, that's my worst. Listening.
What's your best?
My best leadership thing is I have the ability to pitch people in such a way that they want to join me.
Nice.
Like I make you want to be on my team.
Yeah.
I've asked people, when I did a startup one time, I never forget, I went to a client of mine and I was just getting it started. It was a direct mail magazine. He was like 65 years old. And I went in and I wanted to sell him 3 coupons. I was doing a direct mail magazine and he was really rough. And I said to him, I never forget it, because I still use him to this day. I said, Clyde, I knew his name. I said, Clyde, all I'm going to tell you is this, is that I'm going to put an auto shop in these 3 coupons. And they're going to do everything that you're doing. Now I'm in here today because I want it to be you, because I've been using you for the last year. But you need to understand my personality type. I'm going to put an auto shop on these 3 things. And as sure as you're breathing oxygen, it's either going to be you or that guy across the street. Yeah. So I definitely have the ability to communicate in a way that makes people move. Okay. One way or the other. Either give me a middle finger or join me.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. Are you a morning or a night person?
Oh, definitely a morning. I don't know. I don't think very few people over the age of 30 in college that you could run never ending. But as we get older, I always say my favorite, I'm definitely a morning person.
I'm a night person. I'm over 30 and I'm a self-confessed night person.
I'm proud of you.
I struggle with the mornings to this day. Yeah. And I've got 3 children and I've had to, I believe this is a morning person world. So us night people have to get used to it. But still a night person.
Definitely a morning person.
Tell me just 1 or 2 or 3 of your favorite things. What are your favorite things?
My favorite thing is that I love, my favorite thing in the world to do, actually, it's very simple, is I love eating. I love going to a nice restaurant with a lot of friends and having a 4-hour dinner. Nice. Like, that's my favorite thing. With a great scenery, either on the ocean or on there. But I don't enjoy anything as much as maybe that's the Italian kind of, that gregarious, a big meal with a lot of great people, great conversation, in a great setting.
Awesome. And what book are you reading right now?
I just finished it. Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. It's fantastic. Okay. Your Next 5 Moves, and The One Thing by Keller.
Okay, I know that. Yeah, so we'll put those in the show notes as well.
Yeah, they're great books. But Patrick Bet-David's is really good. Your Next 5 Moves.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. I've enjoyed our conversation. Just maybe if we'll put all your details in the show notes, but maybe just say one last thing if you want.
I was going to say, you can get a free book of mine if you go to my personal site, SeanCastrina.com. The 8 Unbreakable Rules is on there for free, and you're welcome to get a copy of that. And, you're always welcome to listen to the 10-Minute Entrepreneur podcast if you like quick business teaching style.
Awesome. Thank you. And what would you like to leave our listeners with? What message or tip or thought or...
do something. Too many people talk about what they're going to do, and 5 years goes by and they never do it. Yeah. Just write down one thing you're going to do in 2021 and actually do it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Sean. I've enjoyed our conversation. There's just so many nuggets in here, and I'm going to go back and listen and take those on board. And just thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
It's a pleasure. This wraps up another episode of Leadership Live. Thank you for joining us today. And now let's continue the conversation. Do you have any questions, comments, or suggestions? Connect with me on LinkedIn or head on to my website at daphnahorovitz.com, where you can download a free sample of my new book, Weekly Habits for Extraordinary Leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with a friend so that I can continue to reach and support leaders just like you. So tune in next week to Leadership Live, where talented people become extraordinary leaders.